Welcome back to the Nuckhead podcast. Hope you guys had a good holiday break, a great New Year's. It's been a while since I've made one of these. I'm well aware of that. I've just been extraordinarily busy, but I'm back now, so here I am. And there's a lot to talk about, too. I don't know if you guys heard, but Quinn Hughes is no longer a Vancouver Canuck. Sorry to break that news to you, but yeah. Truly, though, it has been a weird time. The Canucks have really taken an interesting turn. We'll talk about that in this episode. We have a guest today. I'm sure you saw it in the title. He's a well-known figure in the Canucks fan base. He's also been making content about the team for, I think, over 15 years now. So he's kind of a legend when it comes to this stuff. And he's been on the show once before. Canuck Clay. Let's get into it. All right, Canuck Clay, welcome back to the Nuckhead podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, man, and Happy New Year to you.
Yes, you as well. Happy holidays, Happy New Year. Okay, big question. Last time you were on this show was October 31st, 2024. And back then we were talking about an entirely different Canuck team. I mean, things have changed so much. If you had gone to sleep for a year, you would not believe where this team is at right now. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of it. Like we're similar in that we see things in a more positive way, not forcefully, of course, but I think it's just who we are as people. We see the brighter side of most things. And I'm sure that's being put to the test for you right now, like it is for me. Yeah. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, Nuckhead, similar in so many ways. We both content creators. We both like to talk, both good looking, like so many similarities for sure. But even though I've never seen you, but the main thing is, yeah, I was thinking about that too. That last time I came on was about just over a year ago, and we were coming off that amazing playoff run. And I love your analogy, or just even your hypothetical there. If you woke up from a hibernation, it's almost unreal. If you were to explain to someone who didn't really know players and didn't know everything, and just say, look, in the past, 15 months since these two good-looking guys chatted, you've traded away your best defenseman in franchise history, maybe somewhat arguably your best player. Basically, half your roster has been through the medical through intent for sometimes more than 3 weeks or a month at a time. And yeah, you are not you're not winning your division. You are flirting with last place in the league. It's crazy. As a content creator, a little bit of drama is fine. I think but then when it becomes over and over and the team's not winning, I don't know about you. I can say for my channel, I can see my numbers dipping and stuff like that. And people still come, but I'm not going to blow up on them. I'm not going to go Steve Dangle on them, but I'm trying to be as realistic as I can, because I don't want people to think I'm just, a simp just cheering for the Canucks unrealistically. But it's unfathomable. And whether it's excuses, reasons, obviously injuries have been a big part. Locker room drama has been a big part, and then everything else in between.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, you said it. We don't want to simp for this team. That's not the idea. I've been called a shill. I've been called a simp. But the fact is, like, this is our team. It's a strange relationship, but we've made a commitment to seeing this through, right? Every year that's a failure, which has been, it's kind of, I guess, 31 teams every year fail. So sure. It depends on, I wouldn't call that year they lost to the Oilers in round 2 a failure necessarily, but every year they don't win the cup, it just gets sweeter and sweeter and sweeter for when they eventually do, right? That's how I see it. Now, is that delusional, considering I have no control over that outcome? Yeah, maybe a little bit, but it's what keeps me going. And it's times like these where, like, if there's been a handful of frustrating games this season while Hughes was on the team as well.
Yeah.
And that happens every now and then. Every season, there's always going to be a couple of those. But for the most part, I don't feel like there's been a lack of effort from the team. So even if they're losing games, when I see them trying out there, I see some sort of growth, or especially from the young guys. It does keep me interested. It's when like there was a few dark seasons. There's been a lot, but semi-recently in the Benning era, where it was kind of, frustrating to watch, because it at times felt like they were giving up on their coach or giving up on each other. And I don't see that necessarily this year. So I'm still invested, and I'm definitely not rooting for losses, but the possibility of ending the season with a top 5 pick, especially after that World Juniors, I mean, I'm excited. It's kind of a win-win in my head. I mean, I guess, finishing in the mushy middle would be frustrating, but yeah, I mean, I'm still in it. It sounds like you are too, but maybe you're getting a little more frustrated.
Well, no, you make so many good points, man. Especially we've fallen out of the mushy middle now. Now I can't believe we're saying this. We're looking up at the mushy middle. So maybe that's good for 1 or 2 years. You make so many good points. And for me, not only as a content creator, Nuckhead, but also as a 15-year season ticket holder, as you know,
Right.
I always say, and I joke around, I invest a lot of time, energy, and money in this team by design or by choice. No one's forcing me. But for the first time this year, I'm sitting at games actually wondering what I'm cheering for. I obviously want to see them win when I'm paying that kind of money, and I like to cheer goals and have fun and meet people. All that's still true, but I gotta admit there will be a couple times where they can't take a game to shootout, against Boston, or they lose in the shootout against Seattle, where I'm like, okay, this isn't bad, because yes, we're solidifying our spot down at the bottom. I can't believe I'm saying this, and you're right. I think this team does work hard. I think they've never mailed it in. They've never given up on themselves. They're simply not talented enough, and that's what we're seeing. And at the same time, though, the weird thing is, I'm saying if they're healthy and they're all playing to their potential, I don't think this is a bottom 5 team. I'm not saying they're a top 5 team. So it's kind of strange, right? On one hand, I'm kind of not making excuses for them, but I'm saying, hey, if they're all healthy and they're all going Demko and PD and Bester and blah blah blah, then this is not a bottom 5 team. But I'm not upset when they are playing like it sometimes, but it's not due to lack of effort, like you so eloquently said.
Yeah, and what you said about health too, like I don't think, of course, I hear the rebuttal in my head, as I'm sure you just did when you said, you don't want to make excuses, but the health is a reason. I think when you look at what happened this year and even last year, right? Everybody wants to find someone to blame, and I'm sure there are certain things you can blame, whether you're looking at ownership, management, coaching, whatever. But overall, I mean, they just got extremely unlucky. Like that is, if you're looking at percentages of, what to blame for all of this,
yeah,
I'd say just kind of bad luck. And that doesn't sit well with anybody, including me. Like I want someone to yell at, but I do think like over 50% of the blame is just bad luck because, look at the 23-24 season, that amazing run nobody saw coming. When you look at that, that's an example of everything going right. There were virtually no injuries. So many guys had career years. Garland, Dakota Joshua, Höglander, and obviously the stars. They all shined beautifully. Hughes, Pettersson, Miller, Demko. I mean, until the playoffs was healthy the whole year. Like I think, if for the haters, if they want to blame that season, the good season, on good luck, I think you got to look at these last two and be like, man, did management or coaching have any real way to stop whatever was going on with Miller and Pettersson, or to stop Höglander starting the season injured, or Pettersson struggling through an injury and whatever else he's going through, or Miller, his leave of absence, or Demko? Like, I just, it's the frustrating part. And it all, ended off with this Hughes trade where, whether it's bad luck or bad management or bad coach or whatever, that's the result. It doesn't even matter anymore. Hughes is gone. The era, Pettersson's still here, but the era, the Benning era, if you want to call it that, is that experiment is now over, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's such a good point. And especially, I'm looking here at the games played, and we know that 82 games as of now still is a full season. And back in the day, Nuckhead, you can look at this and you'd have 4 or 5 guys that play all 81, 82 games. But you look at the total from not last season, from last year's full season. Remember, 82's full. Hughes, 68. Besser, 75. Petey, 64. Garland, Hronek, 61. So those are 4 main guys that have, I just added what about 30 man games missed already, and I get it. And you're right. I'm glad that we're mature enough to acknowledge that every other team has injuries. Every other team has the same schedule. I don't blame travel. None of that. It is unlucky though, because yes, a lot of injuries for every team. But when you add, I don't know how you do this, but the magnitude of the actual how important these players are to the lineup. I don't know if there's a team that suffered like the Canucks have over the past year and a half.
Right. And like, you could blame depth, right?
Yep.
Like if someone could point at management, like sure, okay, every team has injuries, and maybe the Canucks had worse injuries or at more inopportune times, but the depth didn't step up. And honestly, that could be a fair argument.
Right.
But I think this year that's not the argument. I think the depth this year from guys like Sasson and Carlson and DPD and Joseph, like those guys have all really played great. Like they don't stand out in a negative. They stand out in great ways, especially Sasson and Carlson. Those guys have been great. So I don't know. I think it's such a weird thing we all just witnessed. And it's funny because you've been a content creator for how long has it been now? Over 10 years, right?
Yeah, basically after the Olympics, I started to shift towards so almost 15 years now. Yeah.
So I started this Canucks channel that during that year, the good year, 23-24, and it's and I've watched every year super closely since for as long as I can remember. But as a content creator, I've really dialed in like what stories I want to tell, and I'm just watching the games a little different now, so I feel like I'm even more invested. And man, it's just a weird time to have started this because it's just like the most exciting time in years in the city, followed by just absolute, like, can you believe this moments where, okay, yeah, sure, Miller and Pedersen have a little beef, but it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh, Pedersen's slumping, but it'll be fine. He slumped before.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hughes wants out. He's going to play with his brothers. Yeah, right. Goes to Minnesota. That's crazy. Like, it's unheard of. And it's kind of like a pinch yourself moment, right?
Yep.
But I don't know. I'm sure people listening right now probably want us to talk more about the positives. Everyone's rehashing what already had happened. We already know all that stuff, and we're probably never going to know the stuff we don't know, at least not for a long time. So looking forward, or do you have anything else you want to say about that?
Well, yeah, I love the pivot point here, but just I watched your stuff when the trade broke. But give me your 30-second to 45-second now that and maybe this is part of our discussion. How are you feeling about the trade now that it's been almost a month, basically?
Actually, that's a great point. I want to hear that from you too after.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, well, my initial reaction was complete shock. I mean, I had already accepted that I accepted that his future with the team was genuinely questionable, because for a long time I was very much kind of thinking, this could just be a negotiation tactic from his brothers, and it also could just be the media doing the media's thing. And I do think to a certain degree it was, but the way the season was going, and based on his comments in the summer where he said, his future with the Canucks is going to, have everything to do with how they perform this year. Them sitting at last spot in the league, I kind of was like, all right, this might be getting serious. But I didn't think he would be traded that quickly, or to the Wild. I didn't really think it'd be the Devils either. I couldn't see that working. But I mean, yeah, Minnesota just came out of nowhere. I don't even think the Canucks thought Minnesota would be the team for quite a while. But anyways, okay, my point is, complete shock, and just what the hell? What's going on? This is weird. Is this real? Is this fake news? Then I look at the return. First name I see is Marco Rossi, and then I see Liam Ogren. Then I see Bouillon, and then I see the first round pick. And I'm like, am I crazy? Like, I feel like this is a good return. I mean, you're not going to win a Hughes trade. Everybody knows that. If McDavid gets shipped off from Edmonton in a couple years when his contract's expiring, I don't care who they get back. They're not going to win that trade, at least in the short term. You're not. I mean, probably not at all, right? But I don't know. I don't want to sound too positive, but my honest reaction after about 20 minutes of running around freaking out was, man, I like this trade. I really like Bouillon, and I really like Ogren. I like Rossi. I don't know much about him, but the two younger guys. I mean, they're all young, but the two 21, 20-year-old. I really like Bouillon and Ogren. So, yeah, I think it was probably, it sounds like, based on the reports I've seen, it sounds like that was possibly the best thing they were going to get for him.
Yeah.
So Man, I'll probably have to edit this answer down because you said 35 seconds and I've talked for like 45 minutes. But
it's your show. You do whatever you want, man.
Oh yeah. Okay, let me keep going. No, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm still, you know what? This rambling session is proof that I'm still kind of digesting it, but I'm leaning towards I like it.
Yeah, and don't edit it out because I think you might feel like you're rambling, but no, you're still articulate, and I think you're actually reflecting what many Canucks fans are feeling, including me. So, isn't it funny how it's easy to justify, to romanticize the trade because we're Canucks fans, right? And we don't want to feel like we were wronged by the best defenseman in history. It hurts. It's a blow to our pride that someone did not want to stay here, did not want to play here in this beautiful city. A very expensive city, but this beautiful city, and great fans and blah blah blah. Because we used to be, a real place of attraction for free agents. Having said all that, I agree with you, and I think if again, this isn't romanticizing or justifying, but if we truly believe that this was the best deal out there, and I do trust Allvin and Rutherford that they did try and that they've known about this since the summer. Basically, this is what they've intimated. Then I think they did really well. Whether you call it the equivalent of 4 first-round picks. What I was saying right after the trade, Nuckhead, was Booyam. He doesn't play exactly like Hughes, but at least he was doing. He was trying to do the same things that Hughes kind of did. And remember, before Hughes got traded, he wasn't actually doing much. He was like 8th in the defenseman scoring, and he didn't look motivated, didn't look well. So not only do we get a guy who's supposed to do what Hughes was doing, but then yes, I remember Ogren from the time that Otland and Lekkerimäki, they're all drafted, within 5 spots of each other, playing from the same team. That's cool. And then Marco Rossi, we've been linked to him for a couple of years now. And then the first round pick, it might be at a bottom third, but whatever, it's still capital. I agree with everything you said, and I think the early returns for me, I think Booyam has been average. He's shown some high risk, high reward tendencies already.
Mm-hmm.
I think Rossi has been a little bit below average, but he's coming off a big injury, and I think that as you said, Ogren, he's been above average, and he's been a bright spot for sure. So overall, I'm okay with it. And but I'm also not mad at Hughes. I'm not bitter at Hughes. I know there's so many people that are upset with him, but I do this in life too. I try and put myself in that person's shoes and really try and understand. And everything we talked about, we led for the first 15 minutes of the show. I can't blame him for wanting to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I definitely don't hold any ill will against him. I will say that outside of the logistics of the trade, when it happened, there was, and I talked about this in my reaction video to it. There was kind of a moment of seeing the light a little bit, because it's been doom and gloom since Game 7 against the Oilers. It's just been, negative after negative after negative, and Hughes' future being kind of the last straw. I mean, I suppose Pettersson's play is still, the people are going to still be all over him about that, but that's not as big of a story anymore as the Hughes thing, right? And now that Hughes is gone, and we have 3 younger players who are, especially Ogren and Booyam, I'm excited to watch grow. It just kind of felt like a relief, that was the overwhelming feeling I had. It wasn't anger, it wasn't disappointment. It was just like, okay, finally we can talk about something else,
Yeah.
And I think that, when we're talking about getting rid of potentially the best player the team's ever had, the fact that was my initial feeling. I mean, again, 15 minutes of running around screaming with my head cut off, but then once that all calmed down, I was able to think critically. Just relief. I was like, oh man, weight off my shoulders, especially, content creation, just kind of, not because I don't want to talk about it, but I don't want to mention every single video or every single podcast the same thing. So even during a week where, all the talk is about, oh, here's what Rutherford said about Hughes' future, or here's what his brother said, because I already touched on it maybe last week, for example, I don't want to bring it up again. So I no longer have to navigate through all that sludge,
Yes. Do you find that your listeners and viewers, Nuckhead, have they moved on? It's only been a month, but do you think they've moved on finally, and they kind of in the same thing, have seen the light from a standpoint of, or they see light at least at the end of the tunnel, or at least a direction now?
I think it's pretty split down the middle.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I there's still You know what's interesting is maybe it's the vocal minority, which it always is on social. On my shows and my chat, still there's still a lot of people that are really bitter, really upset. It's almost like they were personally offended by Quinn leaving.
Yeah, yeah.
But you're right. We have to move on someday, and I think again, not justifying, but I'm kind of. It sounds like Quinn did everything right behind the scenes. He went to management. He had an honest, and he gave them an opportunity. He didn't hold them hostage or anything. Maybe that's not the right term, but he gave them every opportunity to seek out a good deal, and they wanted to do right by him too, in sending him to a contender as well.
Yeah, the only thing that I didn't like from Hughes, and
Yeah.
this is nothing to be upset about, truly, was that one maybe 5 to 7 second part of his shift. I can't remember which game it was, but I'm sure
Right.
you know what I'm talking about, where he really started sulking and throwing a bit of a tantrum.
Right.
That I didn't like. When you're wearing the C. I get it, right? Like I understand
Yeah.
his frustration to a certain degree. We were all feeling it on our couches. So imagine, him with his future and everything he's worked for on the line. I understand, but at the same time, that was a little bit immature, and you got to be able to control that. So I didn't like that. And if people are gonna use that as the main example, I think that's blown out of proportion. It's not a big deal,
Right.
But yeah, I mean that was annoying. But
yeah, I think
whatever.
Miller must have texted them during the intermission or something. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, Miller texted him after. Great work, man. Great form. You looked great out there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad I rubbed off on you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing, especially when you're wearing the C. But even if you're just one of the better players on the team acting like that, I mean, I guess you could argue maybe some people and teammates respond well to that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to look and read and do a lot of research to find, is that actually a good leadership style, to be like, fuck, like mad, and then everyone's like, oh okay, Quinn's mad, we got to play better.
Yeah.
Or not even mad, like pouty, I guess.
Yeah, let me know what you come up with, man, because I might try it at work and see what happens.
Oh yeah, that's funny. That's funny. This sucks. Do we really have to do this?
Yeah,
Yeah. My gut says it doesn't work.
No, I'll be looking for a new job pretty soon, but we'll cross the bridge when we get to it.
Yeah, don't blame me. All right. Okay, so yeah, should we move forward?
Let's do it.
All right. So yeah, the Canucks right now, as of recording this episode, are 31st in the league, which is not good. There's 32 teams, but they are in the running. We're over halfway through the season. They are in the running for a top 5, maybe even the first overall pick. And after the World Juniors, one of the biggest talking points right now is Gavin McKenna the consensus first overall pick? So I want to ask you, well, first of all, did you catch any of the World Juniors games?
I catch enough. Yeah. Not everything, but yeah, I did. Yeah.
So my question to you, and this is probably going to be hard to answer, but if the Canucks, well, it might not be actually, if the Canucks are picking first overall, who would you want them to pick?
Wow. What a great question. I think in terms of game breaking potential and what I can totally sit on the fence there, and I think you know which way I'm going. Between it's two players, it's McKenna and Stenberg for me. For McKenna, I think just the way that he can still break open a game in terms of his offensive ability. We're not asking him to be the best defensive player in the history of the world. We're not asking him to be the hardest to play against. We would be asking him to just to create and to bring a level of excitement and skill that we might not have here. So that's one thing about McKenna, and he's been I wouldn't say consensus, but he's been the front runner for sure. But I get this whole fact that Ivar Stenberg is, and he was great. Like I watched him, and I think maybe he's even more NHL ready than McKenna is right now. Like I could see Stenberg slotting in right away. I could see McKenna taking one more year or half a year in college and maybe a better college team. But I do like Stenberg's offensive skill set as well, and he's it's just I feel Stenberg's gonna be a top 6, and I feel McKenna's gonna be a top line. So, but that's not me saying McKenna for sure. But if I was hard pressed, I think Stenberg would fit in the culture well because of the Sweden, all the Swedes and stuff. But there's still something about maybe there's a wrong way of looking at it, Nuckhead, but it's almost like it's better to pick second in this draft. You let another team make the decision, and then you get whoever's left as an amazing consolation prize. But I I look at it this way: is who might you regret leaving on the board? And to me, that's McKenna, not
Yeah.
Stenberg.
Yeah.
So yeah,
No, that honestly, I agree with all of that. And especially picking second. I honestly think, I mean, this might sound crazy, but I think if we get the second overall pick, I kind of think that is great
yeah,
because my biggest worry when it comes to, and I don't want to get too ahead of things, but if they do win the draft lottery, my biggest worry is that they go for Stenberg and the reaction from the fan base is negative. And Stenberg, an 18-year-old kid, comes to Vancouver, who we should all be excited about, but because they didn't pick the good old Canadian boy, his introduction to the city and this fan base is negative. That's genuinely my biggest worry.
I could totally see that, man. That's a really good point. That's a really good point.
And when we talk about guys like Hughes and picking players that don't have that, and man, I should rephrase that. But what I mean is just players who, Besser, right? He loves this city and he's been through a lot. He's been criticized. The team's been bad the majority of his time here. And they even kind of wronged him. I know they made up, but like last year at the deadline when Allvin misspoke and kind of made it sound like nobody wanted him and they lowballed offers to him, all that stuff. He was all but gone until he realized his heart's in this city. I know he's got a girlfriend here, but he also loves the city. He's been saying that for years. I love that, and when guys like Bieksa who went to Anaheim and still on Hockey Night in Canada is wearing his Canucks socks, he loved his time here, right? I like that's what I grew up with, the Sedins, right? These guys did not want to go anywhere else. They loved the city, they loved the team, they loved the fan base. I want guys like that, Myers, and so I think if the Canucks do end up with a first overall pick or whatever it might be, I mean, I'd be silly to think they don't take this into account. They must, but just trying to get the right guy, like in the draft interview, ask, do you think you'd fall in love with Vancouver? Because, if you turn out to be great, but then, you don't want to resign and we have to ship you off, whether the team's good or not, I mean, it's kind of impossible to predict. But you know what I'm going with, right? It's just if they do get that first overall pick and they pick Stenberg, because you're right, he is, I do think, at least based on that World Juniors performance, I do think he is the more NHL ready player. I don't know if he'll be better than McKenna in the long run, but he'll probably make a bigger difference at least early on. And he fits in with the culture of the team, and we know there's a long history of Swedish players loving Vancouver.
Yep.
I could see them going for him. And if that were to happen, I'd just be terrified that the fan base like makes him feel terrible.
Can you imagine, man? It's so Vancouver. The first time in history that we have, not including the magic that Brian Burke pulled off for the city. And so a true first round pick. And then people within 2 minutes are complaining about it. I could totally see it.
Yeah. Also, let me just clarify here. I'm part of the fan base. You're part of the fan base.
Yes.
When I say the fan base, you touched on this earlier. I don't mean the overwhelming majority of people listening here. I mean the loud minority of angry people. That's and they're the loudest. They're the ones when people say Canucks fans are so annoying. They mean those guys, and that's a very small group of people. The majority of Canucks fans would be very welcoming and love having a player like Stenberg. But yeah, if they pick second and pick Stenberg, that's kind of the best case scenario. Second best case scenario, I suppose. Picking first and getting McKenna would be the best.
Yes. So, but everything you said so far in the last few minutes underscores why. I get it. I joked around. I think maybe we joked around about this a year and a half ago. Is I could never say the T word, but I can say it. I'm mature. I can say tank. Yeah, I'm a 51-year-old man. I'm secure in myself. I can say it now. But for the longest time, I could never even say the word just because I don't believe in it. I don't think players do it. And now I do think you can make coaching and roster decisions to accelerate or to at least get to where you might want to go, i.e., the opposite end of the standings. So, I'm not stupid that way. I get the notion that the worse you are, the better chance you have, and this is the year to have a better chance at a high pick. I get all of that. It's just against my nature to actively, kind of like we led with. What are we cheering for when we're watching these games now?
Yeah, you know what? I think I'm team progress, the P word.
I like it.
That's what I want, and that means getting a high draft pick, but it doesn't necessarily mean just losing. I don't want to lose games if the team looked bad, right? The game they just played recently against Buffalo, that fight they showed at the end was that made me happy, right? They still lost, and again, there's that voice in my head going, that's good, but I was just happy because Ogren scored and Petey sniped one that looked like classic old Petey. As long as the team's showing progress, that's kind of what I'm focused on now. I got to remember that because I think sometimes I'm like you. I go into the game and I'm like, okay, they scored, but do I want that?
Right. And speaking of progress, and maybe we're gonna get to this. Do you trust the current management as it is, Rutherford and Allvin, to really guide us through this critical point in this franchise?
Yeah. Well, okay. So yes, although and it's been a very very honest yes, with no asterisks for pretty much their whole time here. But now there is an asterisk because the whole Allvin being too busy to deal with the Hughes trade. I think it's probably just their poor wording in a lot of these situations. But that's just, why even say that? I don't understand that dynamic. Again, it probably doesn't matter though, because I liked what they got back. I think they did their best, and the outcome was probably the best they could have done. So it might not matter, but it was a bit confusing, and it has me kind of like, Allvin, for example, is he behind the scenes kind of like, why did you say that, man? Like, that makes me look like just some meaningless little sidekick in the biggest trade in Canuck history. Like, what are you talking about? I'm the general manager, so I don't know. I don't want to, there's probably nothing there, but that was a little weird. I'll say that. But other than that, I mean, yeah, I trust them. I don't think there's been a move that I didn't like at least a little bit. I mean, I'm trying to think one that might stand out as bad.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I think we have to remember that just 3 or 4 years ago when they came, they inherited a team that had bloated salaries. They inherited a team that had non-producing players, and they cleaned it up pretty quick. In about a year and a half, they turned them into a contender. So this might take a little bit longer, and we can joke around, the hybrid form retool, but I do trust these guys as well because they've at least Rutherford has proven it. So maybe I don't know what's more important than, you're right, trading Quinn Hughes. Maybe Allvin had to get the lunch order in or whatever. So I don't. But yeah, that was a little bit strange. But I do think Rutherford. It's kind of funny. Like he's such a throwback that I actually like it when Rutherford speaks. I also am sweating because I never know what he's going to say, and then once you hear it, you never know how to interpret it either. But you can't blame him for being honest. That's for sure.
No. And I also like what he speaks because for us making content about it, there's always something to talk about with him.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think the hybrid retool, that's an interesting one. I know that's being memed into oblivion by Canucks fans right now, but was that the term hybrid rebuild or hybrid retool?
Yeah, he said it was a retool, and it wasn't even retool. It wasn't proper grammar. He didn't say retool in a hybrid form. He said retool with a hybrid form. That's the exact. Yeah, retool with a hybrid form.
Yeah, I mean, if what he meant was a hybrid retool, which again, that's not really a term, or wasn't at least until he said it. I struggle to fully understand what he means by that. Might be reaching here, but my best guess would be something to do with how many veterans are on the team, from Garland and Demko and Besser and Pettersson. Not only making sure they're still, understanding what's going on here. I know they're all under contract, but you want them playing their best and believing in the future of the team. If they're not, then that's going to probably show up on the ice. So saying something like, maybe when they initially, because when the Hughes trade broke, the initial press release said rebuild with no nice little words around it. It just said rebuild. And so I wonder, and again, this is just complete speculation. I wonder if maybe that didn't go sit right with some of the players, guys who just signed long-term, Garland and Besser and kind of Demko. He's only here 3 years, but still, maybe some of them are like, I don't want to stick around for another rebuild. I mean, Garland's whole career has been rebuilds, and honestly, basically the same thing with Demko and Besser. So, it makes me wonder if that maybe was just kind of a little. They had to change the terminology for that sake. But also, there might also be truth to what they're talking about, because if they are about to pick in the top 3, you're getting a guy who's going to play next year. And that means you're also, I wouldn't be surprised if Coots becomes a full-time player next year too. And who knows if Lekramaki does. And we've already seen Villander skyrocket. I mean, he's just he's a full-time NHLer now. Not enough people are talking about how he's never going to be sent down again, in my humble opinion.
I agree. Yep.
And so you have him progressing, you got Bouillon progressing, and then you still got solid leadership, solid veterans who can still produce, like Pettersson, Besser, DeBrusk, if he's still here next year, because I've heard some rumblings about him. But I guess the point of what I'm trying to say is that if they do mean hybrid retool and it wasn't just a branding correction, I kind of get it, because you bring in a guy like Stenberg with those young guys coming up too. The team might be good. I don't want to get people's hopes up, but it's possible. it might be a stretch, it might be dumb, but I don't know. It's weird though. I will say that. That's my reaction. Weird thing to say for sure.
Yeah, and I love your point. I keep saying this, but it's true. Well, you're a smart guy. I love your point about the veterans too not being. Yeah, no one wants to sit through a rebuild, especially if you've just re-signed here for multiple years. And even the phrase itself, Nuckhead, the retool with the hybrid form. A retool is already a hybrid rebuild, right? It's basically acknowledging that we're not stripping everything down. We are trying to keep on going. Maybe take a step back, but not 3 steps back, kind of keep on going. So to me, it was like almost a reiteration or a duplication of words and meaning when he said retool and hybrid. But I guess it's a way to cover all your bases, and you can explain it however you want afterwards.
Yeah. Who knows, man?
Yeah.
What do you, speaking of, management, what do you think is going to happen with Kiefer Sherwood?
Yeah. So, a lot of people were almost up in arms. Oh, I can't believe they offered him a contract. Well, you have to. You're not going to sit there and say, we're not going to talk to you. Just let us work out a deal, and because we don't want you anymore. No, you got to find out where the player stands. You got to figure out exactly what he's looking for, and just to make sure that indeed that he's out of your price range. I still think 100% me says you got to, as much as I love him, half Japanese connection, all that kind of stuff. He's gonna be 30. He's 30 years old, and he wants apparently at least 5 years at least $5 million. And I've heard just from David Pagnotta and other guys that they offered 4 years at 4, like numbers starting with 4, and he wants numbers starting with 5. And we look at this a lot. I'm not the biggest when it comes to like fantasy trades and all these things, but I do know that he can get a lot more than some of these other players have been getting, like a second and a fourth and whatever. So I've heard the Canucks want at least a first plus. So with a first and a prospect or first and a pick. And if you do a bit of salary retention, or you take on some bad money, you can even get more. Use Sherwood and a third or fourth for this, and this. So I trust Castonguay and Rutherford and Allvin. I trust all of them to work on those kind of things. But if there's a season where you have to leave no stone unturned, all of your UFAs. So that's not just Sherwood, but that's Kane. I don't know what you're getting get for Bluger and Kempton and Forbert, but those are your 5 UFAs. Then you have guys, you mentioned DeBrusk, who there's been a bit, since the healthy scratch. You guys like Garland and Demko, who actually no trade doesn't kick in until next season. I'm not saying you do that, but there's an option there. So there's the 5 UFAs. That's bare minimum for me. And then you at least kick the tires on some other ways to build up your assets.
Totally. Well, first of all, I got a lot of things to say in response to that. First of all, totally agree. You gotta offer him a contract, not only for the reasons you stated, but also because if you're negotiating with other GMs and you're saying because I heard the Rangers are allegedly now a team that's interested in him. So the top 3 are the Rangers, Dallas, and Boston.
Okay.
And you're on the phone with those 3, talking about who's offering what. Oh, the Rangers just offered me this. Dallas, you got anything else? Blah, blah, blah. You're going back and forth. You throw in another bargain, negotiating chip here where you say, well, we're also offering him a contract. So he might say yes. So that's another thing you have to, go up against. If you want Sherwood, you're not only up against these other 2 teams and whoever else, you're also up against us.
Yeah,
right?
Good point.
So I think like it fills that too, right? Because there's if the Canucks make themselves look like, hey, we're fine keeping him, but we'd prefer I don't know. Maybe I'm sure the GMs know all the tricks in the book at this point, but it might just be part of the game they play. And then the other thing is, if I can remember, when it comes to trading these UFAs, you listed Demko and Garland. I agree that they're definitely picking up the phone, I would say at least. But
Yeah.
the thing is with especially those two and Besser, I think if we've learned anything from the last few years or in general of just being a Canucks fan or a hockey fan, you want guys who really want to be here. You know, I look at sometimes I look at the Flyers Twitter. You know, I mean, I don't search it, but it comes up, and I see, you know, there's a lot of people complaining about Talkett and how he's treating Mitchkov, but I also see how many people are so happy he's there because he left and picked that place, and he played there, and he wanted to coach there. And they're also so excited about Zegras, who is not only having a great season, but he's gone like on record in interviews saying how much he loves it and how the fans are like nothing he's ever seen before, and he wants to be there. And you know, I know they're having a good season, and it's easy to be happy when they're having a good season, but like, you know, Besser and Garland and Demko, these guys, you know, after such a bad year last year, and this one's worse, you know, seeing them signed long term is just, you know, I think we got to keep it like guys like that around. Same reason why I understand asking Myers to move to waive to, you know, trade him to a contender or something makes sense, but also like, you know, his leadership in that dressing room with now half the blue line being, you know, 20 years old.
Yeah.
And you know, his love for the city, everything he's been through. You know, he was the punching bag for many years. I just think like that's something you have to keep around, especially when we're talking about culture and players not liking each other. Like you got to keep those guys around, guys that love the city, love the fan base, understand the dynamics of all of this, right? You know, and I don't know. I just that's kind of where I'm like, I hear that too, and I kind of understand on a mathematical level why it would make sense to move a guy like that if the right trade came in. And obviously, if it was a crazy offer, you kind of have to say yes. But you know, still, I think the team needs more guys that want to be here rather than less. You know.
Agreed. We talked about how this used to be a hotbed and it used to be a place that players wanted to go, a desirable place, and now I think that with Hughes leaving, it's almost there's this alert, there's an awareness that that's a good point. Like the guys like Myers and Besser who do sign here, I'm not sure they could make more somewhere else, but Myers easily could have. But yeah, you want those culture carriers who will actually attract other veterans and mid-tier and younger guys to say, okay, I like what they're building here, and there are guys that do want to play here. So you're right; it'd be horrible if it was a mass exodus of all your best players. So that's another fine balance that Allvin and Rutherford will have to walk for sure. But one thing that you mentioned that I was hoping we'd get to, and maybe we were, is I love how you said we have half our decor is basically 21 or younger, and you still have Mancini still
Right.
down there. And who's the other guy? Yes, Kudryavtsev, exactly. You have those guys still, and even Soriminio, maybe a couple years below him. So I do like, this ties into trusting the management. I do like how they've drafted and developed some of these guys. And Verlander, yes, I agree. He's never going down. And to think we almost couldn't sign him.
Yeah, that was bad.
It was bad. So yeah, I do like how we're shaping up. I remember there were years, man, where the prospect cupboards were so bare. Basically, as soon as Petey and Hughes came up, it left no one. And then they've done a good job of rebuilding it over the past 7 years for sure.
Yeah, the decor looks great. I mean, yeah, I'm. It's almost more of a problem of who's going to make the team. I mean, you don't really have room for both Kudryavtsev and Minio on the NHL roster.
Right.
I think Mancini, if he makes it, he'll be slotted in wherever. Whenever Myers is gone.
Yep.
Whether that be in a trade or retirement. So that kind of makes sense. But yeah, I mean, that left side, especially with Marcus Pettersson here for another 4 years, I think it is. That's kind of one spot that'll be a battle. Which is why I don't think the Canucks are all that interested in Keaton Verhoff. But you know, if they do end up picking second and he's available, I know some people are even saying he could go first. He's a right-handed defender. Like, you know, you kind of run into that whole, do you pick the guy you need, or do you just pick the best guy? You know,
right?
And it's that would be. I mean, I don't know. It might be easy. I don't know, but Verhoff would knock down her. Like, where's he going to play? You're not going to put Verlander on the third pairing,
right?
Maybe next year you would, but like long term, that guy's top four.
Yes. So I think we've clearly established that the best place for the Canucks to pick is second. the second best place is first, and the third place would be third, because then you won't get McKenna, you won't get Stenberg, and then you got to figure out if you're taking a defenseman like Reed or Verhoff, or you go off the board, not off the board, but you look at another forward. Okay, that's good. If there's one thing that we established today, we need the Canucks to pick second.
You know what? I actually think I need to edit that, because I think the best place for them to pick is still first, but only if they're picking McKenna.
Okay, that's good. Let's go with that.
Right? If they're not picking McKenna, if they like Stenberg, which I wouldn't blame them for, they cannot pick him first, because the loud minority of angry Canucks fans who just want a good old Canadian boy and not another quote unquote soft Swede are going to permanently damage that 18-year-old's psyche, and we don't want that.
Well, we're gonna have to get together right after the draft and revisit this conversation in 5 months for sure.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I'd love to do that. I got some more questions for you. If you have time.
Let's do it.
I want to know what you think the future is for Adam Foote, and also what you think of his coaching so far this year. I mean, it's hard to tell with all the injuries and everything that's happened, but if they do pick a guy, I'm just going to say when they pick a guy in the top, let's say 10, okay? Someone that could slot in and change the dynamic of this team even just slightly. Do you think they give Foote that opportunity next year, or do you think he's out?
I'm not convinced, Nuckhead. The optics are so bad though. If you let him go, then you're looking for coach number 5 in 5 years or whatever it's going to be. Like that's not great. We're talking about trying to build a stable culture and a franchise where people want to go to. Who's going to want to go to a team that can't keep a coach for more than a year and a half? So that's one thing I think of. When he started and when the team was okay to start the year, I actually found his media availability quite refreshing, because he has a lot of time for a lot of the reporters, and he tries his best to explain certain things. But then I'm not sure you picked up on this. Sometimes he'll say though, but I'm not going to get into that, or he actually played the "you haven't played at this level" card recently, which is, I thought.
I missed that.
Yeah, no, it was just talking about D pairings and when to match up certain guys, and it wasn't really bad. And he said it. He even said respectfully, "You haven't played at this level," so it wasn't a big thing. But having said all that, I do think, while I found his media refreshing, I do think sometimes he goes in word salad as well, and maybe it's just him learning how to communicate or articulate himself. And then I look at some things. I think the players play for him. I think they really like him, and as we talked about, they show a lot of effort. At the same time, I do question some of his line juggling. I do question some of his deployment, but I keep trying to look through this haze of injuries and drama and say, would any coach kind of suffer in this, or does he have something to do with it? Then there's the whole Malhotra thing. I know we have him for 3 years, thank goodness, more in Abbotsford, but people are kind of just hoping that they were hoping that he was going to be the next one. They're hoping that maybe after the season, after Foote does whatever, some people are cheering him because he's the tank commander apparently. So like, do you give him to the end of this year? Or do you give him at least the start of next year? I don't know. For some reason, there's a part of me that says it wouldn't surprise me if they let him go after the season. Imagine if they finish the year like in the bottom 3. How can you say that's a success, like, at all, aside from the draft pick?
Yeah, no, I mean, from a coaching standpoint, you couldn't call that a success, right? Because there's no way a first-year coach, or any coach for that matter, is going out and actually trying to lose. I mean, and play like no one's. I don't even think many managers are really into that. Although, maybe some of them see if they're more business oriented, they might see it. I take that back. I think managers might be okay with tanking, but the players and the coaches, there's no way. Especially coaches that were former players, which is majority of them. There's no way they can go out there and willingly lose. Right? It's just not in their nature. So him being a tank commander, I know the joke is that he's not doing it intentionally. But I think some of his decisions up front, especially like the D-core, I'm happy with what he's doing. I think if anyone is going to be coaching young defensemen, he's definitely got to be up there for someone you'd want to be doing that, right? He was a great defenseman in his time, and he has a great understanding of it. Yeah, he might also be a great coach up front. I mean, it's been hard to tell with all the injuries and everything that's gone on. But yeah, I do agree that sometimes, I'm seeing Höglander scratched a lot. I'm seeing Ratu scratched a lot, even though he's one of the best face-off guys in the entire league this year. Mm-hmm. It does have me scratching my head and wondering what he's seeing that I'm not seeing. And I do like that I know some people probably don't. I do like that he's putting Sassone high up in the lineup, because Sassoon's the type of player that if he's going to flourish at the NHL level long term, he's probably a guy that you want in the top 9.
Right.
And so him getting, time, sometimes even on the first line, I think is good for his development and good for, just management in general to kind of get a, or not management, sorry, just the entire team to get an understanding of what he's actually capable of. And so that's cool. And that's rare. I mean, I think if the season had gone well, we'd be seeing Sassoon few and far between.
Yeah.
But other than that, though, I agree. Like some of it's been very questionable and has me wondering if what management thinks, because if they do, again, like if they get a guy that can make an impact next year, and it sounds like they might even with Coots, right? So you're having a new guy come in, maybe multiple. Do you want to kind of just wipe everything clean? Get somebody who wasn't here for all the drama, who wasn't here for all the bad stuff, and just treat this team like a true rebuilding team, even if they have a lot of veterans on their team. Bring in a guy, like Malhotra. I don't really have a preference because I don't understand, I don't know everything that's going on, but I do think it's a possibility that he gets let go at some point. Maybe even goes over to Philadelphia to be assistant coach.
And with the forwards, we talked about losing guys, trading guys like Sherwood and Kane, and getting something for David Kampf because you're going to need 2 or 3 spots. Imagine Braden Coots. I agree with you. I think he should be on the team next year. Then there's Lekkerimaki. Then there is maybe a McKenna or Stenberg. So there's you got to create those spots, and I get it, and have cheap, efficient contracts. The other thing is, and just looking, I agree with you. We're solid on D, and then even the Marco Rossi trade paired with the Filip Chytil hopeful return. I know we've said that before. The center depth looks a lot better than it did even a month ago when everyone was out. So now you can run PD, Rossi, Chytil, and then one of Sasan or Ratu as your fourth, and that's with Coots knocking on the door. Now that's 6. I wouldn't say bona fide, but that's just these 6 centers. A lot better than when we were putting Drew O'Connor in the middle.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But then what do we have? Who do we have on the wings to play with all these guys?
No, I totally agree. I think I almost wonder if, and every time I start this thought, I actually argue with myself, but I'll say it. If when that, everyone's healthy, if you push Chytil to the wing. Yep. But the reason I stop myself is because I just instantly get flashes of him cutting through the middle of the ice, the way he does, the way he enters the zone. It's like, he's not the best player in the world or anything, but that skill set he has, it stands out. It blew me away when he first came here. I was like, whoa. He can just do that. Why doesn't everyone just do that? Like the way he can just game the zone like nothing. Although he struggles to make something cool happen once he's in there. Like, he's kind of a 50-50. But yeah, I mean, that's something that, if he can do that on the wing, then maybe, you push him to the wing and let, a guy like Coots or Ratu or even Sassoon go up the middle there.
Yep. I agree with all of that. And I shouldn't dismiss our talent on the wings. They're not as effective as, say, other contending teams. When it's Besser, DeBrusque, Kane, Garland right now, and then guys like Hoglander and Ogren pushing up. It's okay, but it's not great. You're not going to stack that roster up against any of the contenders. And I guess that full circle, that's why we are where we are right now on 31st.
Yeah, no, totally. Okay, I want to quickly just run. Just let's make some predictions here. Not necessarily predictions, but maybe preferences.
Sure.
We have a lot of players we've already talked about that may or may not be on the trade block. Well, we know Sherwood is. I've heard. I don't know if I didn't see what the sources were, so I'm not sure on this. But DeBrusque is now. Some people are wondering if that's the guy they might move on from. Kane has been in, trade wishes, I'd say, basically since he signed here from like half the fan base. Then you got Bluger, who I know, he's got some decent value as a center. I mean, he's a great player. It's just that he's been injured all year.
Yep.
So, that's somebody that they're I would imagine they'd move off from, but maybe not. Maybe they see him as a valuable piece of their center core moving forward, just in case. So yeah, I guess I just want to ask you, you looking at Sherwood. No, let's move on from Sherwood actually. So Bluger, Kane, DeBrusque, and O'Connor and Hoglander. Let's say.
Okay.
Do you think how many of these guys do you think will be moved, and should they?
I think Yeah, if we're looking at those four, Kane, Bluger, Hoglander, O'Connor, I think.
And DeBrusque. Sorry,
And
I
DeBrusque.
gave you too many, but
You're right. No, you did name the five. Okay. So I think O'Connor's got a modified no move. I don't think he's going 2.5. It's not the best. So I guess it's 250 more than Linus Karlsson just got. I do think they like O'Connor's speed, and we've seen like he's one of the top. Can you imagine he's one of the top 5 goal scorers on the team this year? And I think Hoglander 3 million, not the best. You want to see more, but I still think they're gonna have to decide on him. But if I had to bet, my gut feeling and my own preference is that we keep Hoglander. So I say Hoglander, O'Connor are still here. I think DeBrusque, it's only chatter because of that one healthy scratch. I know he's being linked to Edmonton, where he's from, but my guess and my preference is always to explore, but my guess is that he will be here. Kane, you got to move him. Even if you get a mid-round pick for him, you got to get something, because there's no way I don't think we bring him back. He's 34 years old already, and he's come as advertised, actually, though. Like, he stands up for his teammates, he mucks it up, he draws penalties, he takes penalties, and he's pointing every 2 games. So I don't think he's actually been that disappointing. I actually have time for Evander Kane. I think he's reformed his off-ice image a little bit, but
totally, yeah.
When you're looking it's just from a value standpoint, it doesn't make sense. The same as Sherwood. You got to get. He's not going to get as much as Sherwood, but you got to move him. And then Bluger, I hear you. Like, I think he's valuable, especially in the locker room, but we just talked about, we named 6 centers and we didn't even mention his name. I think you're not going to get whatever you can get from him. You let him play a little bit when he gets back eventually, but maybe he's like a late, he's like a 5th, 6th, 7th rounder. Can get you a 4th or 5th. Maybe I'm shooting too high. Sure, gets your first plus. And then look at that. We just got us 4 assets for the Vancouver Canucks just now.
Yeah, totally. And I guess I should throw in Camp there too. You think he's gone?
I think so. Like, he's 1 year, right? And we picked him off the waiver wire, so 1.5 million. We don't need him next year. So despite him being an Olympian, good for him.
Yeah,
I think you move him for another late round pick. So honestly, though, none of these guys except for Sherwood get you higher than a 4th, truly. But you can still package a couple 6 to move up to a 4th or whatever it is. So every asset in the draft is draft capital. Is capital for sure.
What do you think Kane retained at 50% gets you? You know, and I'm talking like last 10 minutes of the deadline when a team's desperate.
Well, definitely not a 1st, definitely not a 2nd. Retained at 50% though.
They would do that. I think they'd do that.
Oh yeah, I agree. They would do that. We have those cap space. So I don't know. Like, this is your viewers might say this guy's an idiot. Does that bump it up to a 3rd or 4th rounder? What do you think? I don't know.
I think 3rd without question, honestly. Okay. But I don't know why I'm so positive about that. I just think when you look at a team like, I think Carolina, or a team that's been just there like for a long time, and maybe can see hints of their window closing, and they just, it might be they feel like they were outmuscled by a team like Florida, or like Tampa Bay, maybe, grabbing a guy that you've seen him. He's been to the Cup final 2 years in a row. He he adds grit to your lineup, and he's when things are when there's big games. I think he's shown enough throughout his career that he's a guy kind of like Corey Perry who will make an impact on that game. I know last year there was, he took some bad penalties, and maybe me saying that is a bit out of style, but I think overall, someone would see value in Kane, especially if the Canucks are like, look, we're going to let this guy walk in free agency. There's 10 minutes left to get the guy you want. You missed out on that guy. You missed out on that guy. You want this guy for 50% retained. You guys don't need this third round pick. What are you talking about? You're the Hurricanes. I could see that happening.
That's a great point. And look, Tampa's like, they're the goons of the league this year, right? They're gooning up against Florida. They're gooning up against San Jose. Tampa's building into a really strong, like, nasty team. We know Florida's pedigree. You got all the big guys in Washington, right? With Wilson and so there are places, I agree with you, where a team could bring him in. We have him as a top line left winger, but he's probably placed, especially at 50% retained, as a bottom 6 guy who will drag you into the fight, and exactly who has playoff experience, playoff pedigree, and could, it would be great. A great late season pickup for a team looking to muck it up in the playoffs. Absolutely. And even Toronto, I think Joshua's out for, I don't know their salary cap situation, but trying to get out of that Atlantic division, right? If Toronto even makes it in the playoffs with Florida and Tampa there, those bruisers, you're going to need some beef. So, Yeah, you convinced me. Evander Kane retained for a third minimum.
Yeah, I don't know if Toronto is going to be buying at the deadline. That's another team that's having a bad year. Hey.
Yeah, they are, but they've picked it up a little bit. They've actually launched themselves into they're right in the midpoint now. They're 17th in the league. So,
it's funny. We kind of started this off talking about the hypothetical of, imagine if you had fallen asleep for a year and where we, the sentence. If you were told this, someone from the future came back January 1st, 2025, and said, "Hey Clay, the Canucks are going to be battling with the Winnipeg Jets for first," and then you'd go, "Yes, no," and then overall pick. Like what? It's crazy.
I know Winnipeg's my second favorite team. Like I love the city.
Really?
Yeah, I love Hellebuck. It's funny, a lot of the parallels, Hellebuck, Demko, da. But I guess Winnipeg's, they're just old, and even Scheifele's scoring, but the rest of the team's kind of old and not that fast. And I don't know how long Scott O'Neill's going to last there. But yeah, it's ridiculous when you look at Winnipeg at worst in the entire league. That's nuts.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy. It makes me feel better about the Canucks a little bit. I'm like, no, see, there's another good team down here, guys.
Yeah,
it's fine.
It makes you feel one place better.
Yeah, exactly. At least we're better than the Jets. All right. Well, this has been great, man. I appreciate you coming on again, and I'll take you up on coming on after the deadline, after the draft, just to see if we need to if they do pick Stenberg first overall, if we need to go out with signs and convince everyone that it was a good pick. Hopefully that's doesn't happen.
Yeah, don't bring me on before the draft because I know nothing about the prospects. You can find a lot smarter people, but bring me on after. I'm good at just talking about stuff that I don't know anything about. So yeah.
Oh, me too, man. That's my bread and butter.
That's why we get along so well.
Yeah, exactly. Just two rambling guys.
There you go.
Anything else you want to add before say goodbye?
No, just keep up the great work. I still watch your stuff, and I know it's been a slog for all of us Canucks content creators, and really appreciate you having me on and letting me share myself. And if anyone wants to check out some late night post-game previews, analysis, I'm on every night on YouTube at 11 p.m.
Awesome. That's great, dude. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Look forward to catching up soon, bud.